What's up guys, welcome to another episode of Flux Fridays, a series where I show you a new flux farming method every single week. Today we're going to be talking about crafting stellar 5 rings to sell in global or trade chat for around 20,000 flux per ring. To start things off, I wanted to briefly explain what this flux farming method is, since it's a bit different than most of my other farming methods from previous videos. I personally recommend watching until the end of the video to make sure that this farming method is right for you, as I'd hate for some of you to start doing this, then realize halfway through that you don't actually want to farm with this method. This method is pretty efficient, but it's also very unique compared to most other farming methods. Unlike most of my farming methods, it doesn't involve the marketplace, and instead uses trade chat. You can still use global chat, but posting trades in global chat typically isn't the best idea. To join trade chat, simply go to the social tab in your settings and check join trade chat, or simply type in the chat /join trade. The reason why we use trade chat is because rings are in fact tradable, but are not able to be listed on the marketplace. All of your sales will be done through trade chat, which will be mentioned a bit later in the video. Moving on to the main topic of the video, ring crafting. In order to craft stellar rings, you have to reach the Lord of the Rings crafting tier in Ringcrafting. The Ringcrafting bench can be crafted in the Builder's crafting bench, or can be found on the northwest side of the hub. Luckily, reaching the Lord of the Rings crafting tier is actually super easy, since most of the materials can easily be bought from the marketplace for cheap if you don't have enough already. First, start off by crafting 250 diamonds in the newbie tier, since you're going to need them in the next 4 tiers. Once you've crafted your diamonds, just craft any of the 4 types of ring boxes to progress through the next crafting tiers until you reach the highest tier. Once you're in the Lord of the Rings crafting tier, the only items that you have to worry about are the celestial diamonds, as well as the 4 different types of solitaire ring boxes. To start your stellar ring business, I recommend crafting 10 to 20 celestial diamonds. Most of the materials are pretty easy to get, with the meteorite fragments from the Jurassic jungle being the most time-consuming to farm. Once you've crafted a few celestial diamonds, I recommend buying a decent amount of forged stellar souls off the market if you don't already have some. The only difficult thing about these is finding them in smaller quantities, since the cheapest ones will typically be in bulk of several thousands. Crafting these rings also requires cinnabar, which can be found in the Forbidden Spires or obtained by using the Cinnabar Tome. I also made a video last week about that tome in particular, so I highly recommend checking that out if you're interested in ring crafting regularly. After gathering the materials required to craft your ring boxes, I recommend crafting either the Power or Wisdom Solitaire boxes, as these rings are by far the easiest to sell. Power boxes guarantee that the first stat is physical damage, while Wisdom boxes guarantee that the first stat is magic damage. The second stat is random, with a few stats being more ideal than others. Ideally, you want to get rings with the second stat being anything other than health regen or stability. The stat that I find sells for the most is energy regen, likely due to the fact that energy regen is pretty much essential for numerous endgame builds. Anyways, once you've crafted your solitaire boxes, click them to open them and sort through your rings. If you got any stellar 5 rings, move them aside in your inventory and make sure you don't loot collect them. You also could technically try to sell a good stellar 4 ring, potentially with energy regen, but I honestly find it more worth it to only sell stellar 5 rings, since stellar 4 rings typically take too long to sell. The neat thing about obtaining stellar rings that aren't stellar 5 is you can loot collect them for a refund of your celestial diamonds, as well as some extra flux, to cover most of the cost of the cinnabar and the stellar souls you used. After loot collecting, simply repeat the process until you have a few stellar 5 rings to sell. From my experience of opening 60 boxes, I personally was able to get 3 different stellar 5 rings. One having health regen, one having magic find, and the last one having jump. For each of these rings, you can name your own price, since it is your ring, but I'll pop up on screen a few suggestions for how much I tend to sell my rings for. Feel free to agree or disagree with my prices, but it's totally up to you what you sell your rings for. Keep in mind that prices may vary, so the price might fluctuate from time to time. When you want to sell your rings, type a simple and clear message in trade or global chat explaining what ring you're selling and for how much. For example, if I wanted to sell a physical damage and jump stellar 5 ring, I would type the message on screen now into the trade chat. This message is basically saying that I'm wanting to sell my Stellar 5 physical damage and jump ring for 20,000 Flux. It is also my responsibility to mention that it's very important that you don't undercut ring prices. If people start lowering the prices randomly, the market will crash, no one will be making any Flux, and ring dealers will stop farming for rings. In other words, it's typically better to be charging too much Flux as opposed to too little Flux. That's all for today's episode of Flux Fridays. Hope this video helps you out. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments below, and I'd be happy to answer any of your questions. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.